The member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Today we have the great privilege of honouring the memory, legacy and to commemorate and celebrate the life of Robert James Lee Hawke. Of course, many people will know him as the ACTU President, the member for Wills, Labor's most successful Prime Minister. But I should reflect, he was also a long-time resident of the federal electorate of Goldstein, living for many years on Royal Avenue in Sandringham. And after his death, because the affection for him by many Australians was reflected, there was a little tribute set up the front of his former home in Royal Avenue in Sandringham, where people dropped off flowers and set up candles, many years after he had left our community and gone not just to the Lodge in Kirribilli, but also to live in Sydney as well. I will say, though, that throughout his entire time while he was the member for Wills and Prime Minister and lived in the federal electorate of Goldstein, despite the spirit of him always wishing solidarity forever, the federal electorate of Balaclava and then Goldstein never sent a federal Labor member. But I'm sure it had nothing to do with his personality or the great sense of respect that the residents had, but a reflection of merely the political values that the community shares. As the Prime Minister mentioned this morning, he referred to the fact that Bob Hawke was, of course, the Prime Minister who saw over the end of one era in Australia's political life and the beginning of a new. When I was studying at university, Deputy Speaker, it was often a common thing that we studied books like The End of Certainty that covered much of his Prime Ministership and, of course, of his achievement. And while there are many things that people can say about Bob Hawke, the thing that I always respected about Bob Hawke, even though I had different political leanings, or at least partisan leanings, was that he understood the importance of having justice in a free society. In his first speech, he said that privilege without concern, without compassion, and without a real contribution to others less privileged is not only an obscenity, but it would also ultimately be self-destructive. And the principle that he held to true is right and continued to inform so much of what we and he call us today to do to continue to make sure that we build an Australia that takes everybody forward together. Now, of course, many people already in this place have referred to the fact that when his mother was burying him, the Bible fell over and came to the book of Isaiah, and made remarks about how this newborn child would have the weight of government on his shoulders. But the brutal reality is there's no point having power if you don't know what to do with it. The weight of government is not just one of administration, but of leadership. And what Bob Hawke did, and many people have cited examples already today, was took incredible stands that helped modernise Australia at the time. Obviously, there are significant achievements in the economic space, particularly around floating the dollar and exposing Australia to global competition, the establishment of APEC, and the contribution it made to the development of international organisations to promote free trade and peace throughout the world, the contribution he made to make sure that Antarctica was mine-free, and a commitment to the stewardship of the environment that we should want for our country and our world into the future. But one of his most remarkable achievements, and frankly boldest, was of course his preparedness after the Tiananmen Square massacre to say to those Australian students who were in our country, to those Chinese students who were in Australia, that they should be able to stay. Hawke's legacy is, of course, of policy. And yes, there's a part of it that's around the narrative of being a larrikin. There is, of course, the story of his rise and fall. But I think his legacy for us and to inspire us today is to have courage about what Australia can achieve. Regardless of our partisan leanings, I think that's what he embodied through his honesty and his character and what he brought to the old Parliament House and this Parliament House as well. and we should be encouraged and inspired by his leadership and his contribution to our nation. May he rest in peace.